Hey guys, welcome to the Powerful Man Show, where we help married businessmen save their marriages without having to talk about it, get unstuck, and gain clarity in their lives. As I like to say, life is too short for average. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Now let's get this started. And we're back. Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. Tim, how you doing, brother?
Doing very well. Just got off another great call with Dinner Circle guys, what I always love. Fills my cup. And so I'm doing very well. How
Yeah.
about yourself?
Talk about an amazing group of men. For those that
Mm.
don't know, the Inner Circle is one of our high-end one-year mastermind groups. A lot of the guys, keep going on after that 1 year, but they commit to 12 months of just diving deep. And it's definitely a place where iron sharpens iron. These guys are soaring so high. They're communicating daily. It's just absolutely amazing to see these business leaders really, really go after it. So
Mm.
in order to get into the Inner Circle, not everybody gets in. You have to meet certain requirements, and these guys have. You also have to go through the activation method, which is our flagship program to start with. So I always like letting people know, Tim, because oftentimes we throw around names of the programs because we know them
Hmm.
so well. And some of the guys listening to this, and ladies, we get some responses from the ladies that are listening to this. They're not sure exactly what we're speaking about. So yeah, I'm sure you're on an absolute high talking to those guys. They're absolutely amazing. Whether you have Animal, Iron Man, Chief, or any of the others that are in there. So yeah, Tim. So I know that what you wanted to do today, and it sounds fun, is answer some questions from our free Facebook community. So if you don't know, guys, we do have a free Facebook community. If you just go to Facebook and you search for The Powerful Man, you'll find the access to that group. It is for business owners only currently. And the reason that is, I'll just talk about it in a minute because we get a lot of questions on why we work with business owners, specifically because these guys are talking about their business problems as well as their marital problems.
Mm.
Typically, what we found over the years, and we have programs for guys that aren't business owners, but specifically, we look for those guys in C-suite, guys in the C-suite, because when 5 o'clock rolls around, they're not done working, right? The business is always on their mind. They have to meet payroll, taxes, and all these other things. So the guys come together and also huddle around business and the trials and tribulations that being a business owner can also affect on your relationship and your marriage.
It's definitely a unique journey.
So Tim, what's the question you have for us today?
Yeah. So I'll just scroll back up to the top. I'm just reading through the comments here. So anyway, the question is so much all the activation method from what I understand is a mixture of helping ourselves to be able to be better men and really taking in charge of it. And he gets it and he thinks that it's brilliant. And at the same time, his question is, at what point is our spouse or wife simply being mean, unkind, or unfair? And is there ever a call out here? And at what point is there just a character flaw or just poor judgment on their side versus natural friction that perhaps we are overreacting to? So, what I'm understanding from that is certain boundaries and shit tests we talk about as well. As I scroll down and look through the comments, there's a lot of guys feeling the same. I've wondered the same thing, and one comment in particular that stood out to me was one of the guys that said, "I struggle with this question myself. To me, it comes down to a question about what we should reasonably expect from our partners or wives." I've heard it mentioned in the podcast, but not in a definitive way. I guess the reason it doesn't get a lot of focus here is because the program is for men. Nope, that's not it. So I think we just dive into this, Doug.
Yeah, let's do it. I know I posted a very lengthy response
Mm.
to that question. I had a little bit of time. I was waiting on a call, so I just responded to that. But let's talk about it here. So there's a lot of reasons. So when I look at this from my marriage, so my wife and I, nothing's perfect. There is no perfect marriage. I was talking to one of the head trainers at the Gottman Institute. So the Gottman Institute does a lot of research on relationships. In fact, the most research on relationships. And what that guy said to me was like, Doug, we've studied literally thousands upon thousands of couples. Like they really watch them and study them like in a laboratory type setting. And then they give them cameras to go home and other people are watching and reviewing. he said, look, even me, and this guy's in his 70s, no marriage is perfect. None. Zero. so so get that out of your head, that idea that you're going to have the perfect marriage. Now, there's differences in marriages and relationships. And when we look at this, one of the things that we need to consider is, you can only control the things internal of you, not external. And what I mean by that, Tim, is we can only control things that, that are within us. And that's why during the activation method, and other things, the programs that we run, the key focus, most of the focus, is actually going to be on the man and how the man can improve himself, right? And how what he can do to improve himself, because we can't affect another person. So, Tim, I can't, as an example, I cannot make you do something. I can't. I just can't make Tim feel a way, or make Tim do something. Now, I can have expectations, and the way that I show up in this world can affect, right, the way that you show up. So if I'm a jerk, as an example, odds are you're not going to be very receptive to what I have to say. You're not going to be very receptive to what's going on. You might be a jerk to me or push me away. However, if I show up in our relationship, Tim, as friends, and as business partners, if I show up and I'm concerned for you, I'm caring, I'm listening deeply to what's going on in your world and your partner Amelia and her world, and I show up and with beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm here for you, you're going to probably respond differently. So that's when our actions can affect the actions of others. That's when we can actually have something that really takes off. And what I mean by takes off is I can always watch the way my wife responds to me. And when men come into the program, often what happens is when we teach them the alpha rise and shine, the alpha decompression, the triad of connection, these are all things that the men learn right away. Their behaviors start to change. They show up as the wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce in their marriage and their relationship. And when they show up in that manner, their wife starts to change. Their wife starts to go, holy cow, look at him. This is the man I've always wanted. Look the way he's being. And then the wife, generally speaking, starts to change. Now, it doesn't always happen, right? Typically, as men go through our program, one of three things happen, right, in their marriage and their relationship. One, they go through the program, the men rise up, and the wives they rise up to meet them, and they all roll off happily ever after. And that's the ideal. That's where we want them to be. The other thing that happens is men rise up and their women don't, which sounds like what is happening for this guy currently. And the men can choose to leave. Some guys say, hey, look, I'm not putting up with this. And they will choose to leave. And the third thing that can happen is the men rise up, right? And the women do not rise up. And then the woman feels left out and attacks the man, right? And eventually the woman will rise up, right? Guys will lift their hands as the leader, and she'll start to seek, getting help for herself and her shortcomings. But what often happens as well is as the men that go through our program change, either their wives almost immediately, like some guys, this happens week one, right? Divorce is on the table. The wife is talking to the family lawyer, and within week one, she sees these dramatic changes the guy's making. And it's not really the changes he's making. What we do out there, guys, is we help you find the real man inside of you. That's it, right? We help you find that guy that when you're looking in the mirror, he's there. You're just like, where the heck have you been? Come on. You're searching for him. That's what we help you find. And then when that guy shows up, that's when things dramatically change, and the wife oftentimes will react. Now, what also can happen is the man changes. The wife loves the changes the man's making, but she's scared, right? She's been hurt. She's had this hope and this dream that you were going to be this man for such a long time. When you said, I do at the altar, when you were married, or when you committed to yourselves, for those guys that aren't officially married and have a partner, a long-term relationship, she saw the man that you are and the man that she believed you could be. And that didn't happen, didn't pan out for her. And this is her story. I'm not saying that you did anything wrong, but most men become nice guys, right? They go into what we call deer mode, where they defend, excuse, explain, and react. And when they're in deer mode, right, the wife feels let down. And this goes over years. And finally, she closes her heart because she feels that you're not meeting her expectations. She doesn't trust you anymore. It's a very common thing that the women will say to men. I don't trust you. What they're saying is, I don't trust you with my emotions, with my heart. You've let me down. You've hurt me. And when the man changes, the wife loves the idea of the changes, but she's scared of opening her heart again. And when she's scared of opening her heart again, she needs to test to see if these changes are real. Are they going to last? Are these changes just going to be just for a week, right? Just for a month? And her worry, her concern is that she's going to open her heart again to you because she wants to, but she needs to know that this is real. This time it's going to be real. And that's important. That's incredibly important for her to know that this is a stable environment for her, right? She needs to know that this is going to last. And the thing is it does, right? And that's why a lot of men continue on to our 1-year mastermind group, the Brotherhood, is because the changes do last and they want to keep going. The journey just begins, right? These guys, it's like almost all the guys describe it as like they're being unplugged from the Matrix. If you all seen the Matrix movie, it's the most common thing we hear from men that go through our program. Many men have been through other programs and et cetera. But when they come through the Powerful Man, they're like, wow, I can see things differently. Alpha Reset's a perfect example. Now I see things as they really are. And these men go off. They become the leaders, the lighthouse in their families, in their communities, and in their businesses. And other men start to follow them, right? Their wives love them and adore them again, right? Their kids start looking up to them. They start fostering amazing relationships. In fact, Tim, a guy that I'm working with, got a Christmas card from his teenage daughter, and what it said would just brought me to tears. His teenage daughter was saying how much she looks up to him, how thankful she is for all the work that he has done and that he's done for her and the role model that he has provided. And this is a complete 180 from their relationship. This is a teenage girl, and she wrote this full page card about how she looks up to her father now. And it's because of the changes he made. And the changes that he made through the activation method, and he's doing one-on-one coaching with me right now, the changes that he's made are dramatic. And really what he did is just tap into who he is as a man, who he's always been. And we just helped him uncover it. And I kind of think of the activation method as really what we're doing is we go in and we strip away the bullshit, right? We strip away the bullshit, you guys, that you haven't seen for some reason, right? Society's put it on you. The media's put it on you. So when it comes to this question on what you should expect from your wife, and really, you got to figure out what to expect from yourself. Are you showing up for yourself first and foremost? Because that's the only thing you can change. But when you look at your relationship with your wife, you do want to set clear boundaries, right? When my wife crosses my boundaries, I let her know. And I don't let her know in this kind of meek manner. I'm not a jerk about it, but I'm very definitive about what I say. It's almost like if a man is rude to me, or I'll use a dramatic term. So if I'm out at the grocery store and a guy pushes my 2-year-old daughter, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, excuse me, please don't do that, sir." No, right? He's going to see another side of me that he'll know that that's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form, and everybody else in that store will figure it out really fast. It's just not going to happen. The same thing is, again, I'm using it as a dramatic representation. The same thing happens when I'm looking at this with my wife. My wife crosses a boundary. I let her know in no uncertain terms that that is not acceptable. I will not be in a relationship. And an easier way to doing that, guys, if you're just starting out, is to look at it like this. There's 3 entities in your relationship. There's you, there's your wife, and there's the third entity, which is the sanctity of your marriage, right? So what I would do when I first started out, I learned this. I took this, I think, from David Dieta when I started. I remember in Santa Barbara on the beach reading his book, and it's a good book. I recommend it, The Way of the Superior Man. But in David Dieta's book, he talks about this philosophy of like, hey, I love me too much. I love you too much to allow this to happen. So therefore, because I am strong and my love is strong, I will walk away if this continues, right? And that's the way we want to look at this. Your wife does have to do the work, and she may not. You get to love her for who she is. That's your choice. But you want to set clear boundaries. If you haven't established extremely clear boundaries that have been communicated and agreed upon, those are 2 things, guys. They must be communicated and agreed upon for this to work for you. So you need to set these clear boundaries. And then if she crosses the boundaries, you bring it up, just like you would do it at work. So if I had an employee, or gentlemen, if you had an employee who you had a clear goal, boundary, hey, you may not call customers, say it's a salesperson, you may not call customers past 2 p.m., whatever reason. I'm making this up on the fly. And then you find out that Susie's been calling customers at 3, 4, and 5 p.m. You sit Susie down. You say, look, we had an agreement. You understood the rules. Is that correct? She says, yes. Why did you violate them? Right? I want to know why. This cannot happen again. You get one warning. This isn't baseball. It's not 3 strikes, you're out. You get one warning, right? That's what I'll give you. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And after that, it's going to be a problem. So that's the way I would approach this. I do think, my wife does the work, right? She's constantly working on herself, for our marriage, and to be a better mother, right? It's really important to her and her identity. And because of that, we grow, but we also, we hit each other at sometimes. I mean, hit each other, but energetically collide is a better way of saying that. If she has bad days, I have bad days. But when she crosses a line or a barrier, that's a problem. So what I would do, just to break this down to nuts and bolts, and guys, Tim's internet cut out, so that's why he's not jumping in if you guys are listening to this podcast. So what I would do in this situation is I would sit down, I would write out clear boundaries or rules of engagement in your relationship and your marriage. And once you've done that, then I would get agreement for my wife. What are these clear boundaries that you want to put in place? And get agreement. So if it's, hey, we will not fight in front of the children, right? We will not be mean to each other. Okay, great. You got to define what mean is. And you're going to be mean to each other, guys. It's a relationship. But figure out what those are. So if it happens, right? Well, first of all, I get my wife's agreement. Do you agree? Yes. Okay, great. So these are my boundaries too, right? I will not put up with anybody, right, demeaning me. Just won't happen. I'll do one of two things. I will walk away from the conversation, right? Or I will just actually leave the relationship. I just won't be in a relationship where someone's demeaning to me, purposely mean, right? I don't want to be around toxic people. So I get agreement on that. And once I've got an agreement from her, if it happens, I bring it up and say, hey, we had an agreement that we would not be demeaning to each other, didn't we? And she's going to say yes or no. I say, look, that's what's happening. I won't put up with it. I love me too much. I love you too much. And I want our marriage to work out. And we cannot have a thriving marriage if this is going to happen. Are you willing to do the work? Has the agreement changed for you? And if she says no, great. Just remind her gently but firmly, and do this in a loving way, guys. You cannot be in deer mode, right? So remember, deer, again, is defend, excuse, explain, react. React is the big one coming out here. You can't react. I'm very firm and calm, just like I am with my kids. Hey, you cannot do that, right? I'll just say that all the time. And so I've got these clear boundaries. Now, if my wife crosses them, or if she says she's not willing to work on the marriage, there's nothing you can do. You can just continue to be the best version of yourself. But no matter what, you have to love yourself or respect yourself enough to stand up for yourself. That's the key. You have to respect yourself to stand up for yourself. And that's the key each and every time. You got to make that happen. So again, go back, write down your boundaries, write down what's happening, write down, if your wife's triggering you or being it's making you upset, write that down and say, where's my boundary around this? What was it I actually really want? If you're in the activation method, talk to your coach about it, right? The activation method, you have a coach, lean on him. There's also a community of men, of amazing men who have either in the program or been through the program who will also help you with this because they've gone through the process. I'm in there, Tim's in there. We have a bunch of coaches. I think we have 6 or 7 coaches in there who are willing to help you. Ask them about the boundaries. Then get confirmation, just like you would in a business situation. Do we have agreement here? Are we on the same page? Yes, no. You're getting buy-in. Once you've got buy-in and agreement, if that person violates it, that's a big issue. Then you get to figure out, hey, did something change for them? Or are they just simply violating the agreement? If something changed, you can have a conversation about it, see if it works for you. If nothing changed and they violated the agreement, that's when you set that firm boundary and you make sure that nobody crosses it again. You got to respect yourself, guys. You got to stand up for yourself as well. But you can't be a dick when you do it, right? If you love yourself and you do it from a place of love and security, that's the key. So I'd asked him what he'd say, but I did see a note flash up on my screen that his screen had stopped. So, gentlemen, I encourage you to look at this, do the work, go back. We'll get Tim back on for the next podcast here because I know he's dying to share his wisdom on that subject, but we'll get him on the next one. So, gentlemen, as we always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Remember, I'm in your corner. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are two types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go from deactivated to activated because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.